Hi, welcome back to another episode of First Class or Trash, where we evaluate creative coming into our mailbox and let you know, hey, is this first class? Is this something we would respond to? Or is this going straight into the trash? So my name is Mike Gunderson. I'm the founder and CEO of Gunder here in the Bay Area, California. Eric, why don't you introduce
Uh,
yourself?
I'm Eric Smith. I'm the president and COO of Incremental Media. We're a 20-year-old offline marketing agency here in New York. And so what Mike's about to pull up is a creative from United Cerebral Palsy, which appears to be a charity that they're looking to get donations from. Really interesting piece, kind of different than a lot of the pieces that we've done in the past. Mike, what are your kind of first impressions of the piece?
Well, so we have a saying here. Sometimes we tell our clients, "Ugly works." Sometimes just ugly works. It gets your attention. It feels more authentic. And so I think this piece, and I've seen this piece for many years. This is an unchanged piece, so we'll call this a super control, if you will. And why I wanted to really bring up this piece is for a couple of different reasons. I think one, you don't necessarily need to have the best design or hire a designer to do direct mail. You can just get it out there with the message you're trying to say, and you can do it really inexpensively. This is a one color printed piece that is actually printed on on a colored stock. Okay, so this is dirt cheap. It comes to my house about 2 or 3 times a year, and it's just clear and right to the point. Now, there is definitely some improvements, and I'll talk about those in a second, but my overall impression is it gets my attention. Eric, what about you?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up two things. One, the yellow paper. We've had a brand that we worked with for like over 10 years who has like a yellow huge offer on their piece, and we have tried everything under the sun and we cannot beat this yellow offer. So I think the fact that it's a yellow background just catches your attention while you're kind of going through the mail. I think the black text again probably keeps the costs relatively low, right? You don't have to have like four color printing or anything like that. You mentioned ugly works. We've had a client of ours that we always quote who said, I want you to make some more of that ugly creative that works. So yeah, we're fans of ugly also. We'll always match a brand's look and feel, but I think you'd be shocked how often, ugly and busy is a really effective creative approach. So what do you think from an improvement standpoint, Mike, with
Well,
the
I
base?
mean, like, there's a few things I like. I think the clear headline here is good. It's easy. Here's what to do. It's not bad. It actually, it does feel fairly easy to do. What I'm confused about is the call to action, because it says place your boxes out clearly. But it doesn't. At least if I'm not reading it right, it doesn't look like no need to call unless you live in a gated community. So what's odd about this is they say that, but these phone numbers are huge right here. And so I'm a little confused. Okay, am I supposed to call or not? The other thing that I thought was really difficult was really the way that all this is a very dense background for all this information here. I did like this actually. This is kind of cool. You just kind of cut this out and then you can put your items in here and then you submit that to your CPA if you'd like for donations. But ultimately, I think some of the improvements is less dense copy, a little bit stronger call to action, and I think maybe even a QR code so that people can learn more about the program. So there's it feels authentic because it doesn't feel like it was sent by a big, huge corporation, but it also feels like, are they really going to come pick up my clothes if I put them out on the street? So even a quote or some social proof here, I think would go a long way in getting people excited about putting donations out in their front yard.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, you called out the sort of what I would call a how it works section. We were just talking about this with a brand yesterday. Like, just make it really clear of like exactly what the person needs to do. And it's sort of exactly as you said, right? We've got two different phone numbers. I guess it's for the two different locations, I believe. But then it's like, don't call us. So it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to handle this? I do like, it's a really minor thing, but the black line going from the top, from the left to the right on the top part of the piece is actually really good little like divider because sometimes brands just have so much content and there's no sort of like clear separation between what they're looking for. They may have done that for the truck itself, but either way, I thought that was a nice touch. And like the what is CP and what do we need is good. I think there could just be like a little bit more structure and consolidation with the way that they communicate that messaging. Where, as I said, not anything wrong with busy creative or things like that. But sometimes we notice where we're like, okay, a brand wants to add this in and that in, and all of a sudden it's like the whole ad is copy, and we're like, well, we got to figure out something to trim down here. So I wouldn't be surprised if over time they just kept adding more materials to this, and it got kind of the more busy nature that it is. But I think it's a really solid piece, especially for a brand that I'm going to imagine that doesn't have a big design team or anything producing a piece. I think they did a pretty solid job, and I think there's some really easy changes to make it a first class piece. So for me, I would say just kind of barely first class, but
That's right.
I think kudos to them for making a good piece. I think it could be improved in the ways we described. But what do you think, Mike?
Yeah, a few improvements for me would be so this cracks me up. This our truck will be on your street, huge gap, not spelled out Thursday, not spelled out October 9. Like this actually looks like some sort of stamp that isn't even associated with this sentence. It
Yeah, I
could be
believe that's
so
correct.
much. Yeah, it could be so much better designed, at least for that. And then why wouldn't you put it on the back too? Like put it on both sides, if you can. I think that's important. The other thing, just plugging Post Reminder, this is a perfect opportunity to use Post Reminder. Hey, scan the QR code and we'll remind you when we're coming on your street. I think that's a perfect use for something like this. So you get this piece and you're reminded on that Saturday to put the stuff out there. I think that's going to help them and it's going to help the consumer at the same time. All in all, I literally put in first class ish. It just barely makes it over the mark, just like what you were mentioning, Eric. But it's a little tiny bit of improvement could go a long way here in really making this piece more effective. So anyway, that's what we got for you today. My name is Mike Gunderson. Thank you again for joining us on this episode of First Class or Trash. You want to connect with me, just go ahead and type in gunder.com into your web browser and learn a little bit more about Gunder. And we'll more than happy to help you out with your direct mail program. Eric, how can they reach you?
Yeah, you could email me, esmith@incrementalmedia.com, or go to incrementalmedia.com and hit the contact us button and schedule some time. So thanks, everybody.
Great. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.
See ya.